Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Water Online Show, Business of Water. I'm your host, Travis Kennedy, publisher here at Water Online. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is really near and dear to my heart, and I know that it's top of mind for all of you out there, and that has to do with reliability, resiliency, and being able to manufacture quality products closer to home based on all of the global supply chain disruption that we've experienced over the past few years. More specifically, more recently, the past 12 to 18 months. But over the last several years, global supply chains have been anything but predictable. From the lingering aftershocks of the pandemic to rising geopolitical tensions, and manufacturers across all industries have been forced to rethink where critical components are sourced, how products are built, and what resilience really means in a world of constant disruption. In the water industry specifically, which we all hold near and dear, one company that offers a compelling example of this strategy is Kamstrup. Through partnerships with Danish suppliers like ETK and SP Meditech, key components of Kamstrup's ultrasonic smart meters are now being produced right here at home in Cumming, Georgia, and in Peachtree City, Georgia, supporting the company's growing North American operations. One response we're seeing more frequently is the move towards localized manufacturing ecosystems, and this is across the industry as a whole, bringing key suppliers closer to end markets in order to improve responsiveness, strengthen quality control, and reduce exposure to global volatility, which is in and of itself very important. Today, we're going to discuss how localized supplier ecosystems improve supplier chain resilience, how Kamstrup balances engineering complexity with elegant design, simplicity, and the rigorous quality processes, including ISO-certified labs, 100% flow bench testing, and material validation that ensure every meter meets the company standard for long-term reliability. Joining us today to tell us more is none other than Kamstrup's head of production, Mr. James Salisbury. James, welcome to the Water Online Show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, I want to start off with one of the things that I had mentioned in the introduction. So this has been top of mind for a lot of Water Online users and the industry as a whole. The global supply chain conversation has changed so much in recent years, but even more so if we go back 12 to 14 months. As someone with an insider view of the world, what shifts are you seeing?
So in the last 12 months, the global tariff situation has gotten quite complicated of where you're getting products from, how much it costs. And so there's so many benefits of looking at key suppliers of where they are and how can you bring them closer to where you manufacture.
It's confusing. Yeah, without a doubt. You're 100% correct. It's confusing for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's definitely confusing. And the easiest way to simplify that is bring them closer to where you need them.
I mean, without a doubt. So let's talk about that a little bit. So when you talk about bringing it closer to where you are, to meet the orders and be able to have the components stateside, to be able to put them together here and try to avoid all of the confusion as much as possible. It's very difficult to avoid in its entirety, but what Kamstrup's doing is pretty unique and is forward thinking from that standpoint. So let's talk about some of the benefits of what Kamstrup's doing by taking a lot of the manufacturing and assembly and putting it in Cumming, Georgia, and in the outlying areas. So what are some of the benefits that you're seeing from that?
So, some of the best benefits when your supply chain is closer, your ability to react to problems becomes much easier if there's not direct global shipments from the supplier to you.
True.
If demand spikes, the response time to get the components that you need are much easier when they're either 50 yards down the road or 100 miles down the road. And also when you have challenges, whether it's from quality or for whatever it is, being able to quickly see the issue of what you perceived and have a dialogue with the supplier is a huge benefit of having them right there next to you.
I mean, there's no doubt about it that when it comes to utilities planning infrastructure investments, which, let's face it, that's what utilities plan for. I mean, that's their big expenditures has to do with infrastructure investments, whether it's for water distribution or water treatment or whatever the case may be. But for technology products like smart meters, reliability is a source supply reliability is the most important thing when they're looking at what providers are out there and what they can actually offer them. Tell me, in your opinion and your experience, of just how important supply reliability is in this market.
So that's key for a Kamstrup, right? We're known for quality products. We're quite fortunate to have European suppliers that have been partners for multiple years, and to bring that same supplier over here is just changing where the product is built, not having to, rebuild a reliability with a new supplier. You're moving closer to us to support our growth. And it also gives them a good customer to get their boots started in the grounds, either in the state of Georgia or just in the United States in general. We're a good customer for them. And so it's a win-win for both parties when they start up here.
Without a doubt, especially when you take Kamstrup as a brand name, for instance, it's synonymous with quality and longevity. So this is an important move that Kamstrup has done in the past 12, 18 months. I was actually at the plant at one point last year. It is impressive. And I know that there's a lot of space that was being developed there to make sure that being able to integrate some of these Danish suppliers into the ecosystem right there in Cumming, Georgia. So Kamstrup's approach has involved bringing those key Danish suppliers into the U.S. market. Can you give us some more insight and give our users and listeners and viewers some more insight as to how those partnerships actually work?
Sure, absolutely. So with our PCB supplier, our printed circuit board, it's a company called ETK. Their first U.S. location is actually inside of Kamstrup's manufacturing site.
How about that?
So, yeah, it's
right.
been awesome. They took over 10,000 square feet of our production floor, put up a wall, and are manufacturing our PCBs for our 2200 product series right inside our building. So when you talk about the supply chain from the supplier to us, I mentioned earlier, 50 yards, it might be less than 50 yards. So they're right there with us. We can have dialogues of ongoing, and also when our volumes spike up and down, their reaction time is really as quick as it possibly could be.
So you're talking about a wall that's separating you versus an ocean, which is a big difference. Right.
It's a 10-foot wall. So
right.
It's quite different.
Oh, what about SB Meditech? So talk to us a little bit about that relationship.
So one of Kamstrup's technologies actually is our meter housing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been buying meter housings from SP Group for many years. And so SP Group established a manufacturing site here in Peachtree City, Georgia, called SP Meditech. And they are our supplier today of the meter housings on the 2200 series. So it's a Danish company, started here. They have other customers outside of Kamstrup, but we're part of their U.S. journey of where it makes sense to bring them here.
Well, the impact shouldn't be understated in the fact that it's not just helping with Kamstrup in terms of reliability, easier sourcing to components, which negates a lot of issues or problems for Kamstrup's customers, which is a wonderful thing. But it's also an investment in Georgia's economy. I mean, it's bringing jobs in, right? That we've heard a lot about that over the past year, especially with all the talk of tariffs. But it's an investment in Georgia's economy. I know that the Danish team, from what I understand, was brought in to oversee the build out, the startup and the hiring and training, but the team is entirely made up of local employees. So what can you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's a very similar story to what Kamstrup did. And Kamstrup is a Danish company. They established roots here heavily early in the beginnings with Danish employees, and we built up a U.S. organization. Same thing with ETK is overseen by the Danish team in Denmark. Set the equipment up here, and all the employees that they've hired are based in Georgia. So it's a Georgia-based employment staff supporting their Danish growth.
So from an operational perspective, of which you're overseeing there, I want to go through, there's numerous advantages that localized supplier ecosystem create. So I want to go over some of these that I made a list before we even came in to tape the show. Okay. But some of those advantages, the first one that comes to mind is simply supply chain resilience, right? So what can you say about specifically how the advantage of having localized supplier ecosystems and how that relates to supply chain resilience. What can you say?
Yeah, so I think the resilience conversation is different than maybe it was 6 years ago, where it was on supply chain cost.
Right.
So sometimes you can have the advantage of both being closer and also being cheaper. But for us, this was a big part of the resilience conversation of how can we ensure that our supply of components is consistent no matter what's going on in the world, and we're less risk adverse to tariff changes from one country to the next. When it's a U.S. based manufacturing site, we have really only benefits to say, right? There's not a lot of things to say, well, if you're producing locally, you have this disadvantage. I haven't quite figured out what's one disadvantage of having somebody inside your building or across the city.
We'd have to figure out that we have to set aside a long episode to find a disadvantage, especially the way that Kamstrup is approaching, because I certainly don't know it. So we'd have to spend some time there. But what you say rings right. So that resilience, things that go into that could be, reduced dependence on long shipping routes. Like we're seeing that now with oil, right? When it comes to shipping routes, fewer logistical risks, and it enables Kamstrup to be much more agile. But one of the other things I want to sort of do somewhat of a dive on here related to the question is one of the benefits: faster response to demand spikes and the faster adjustments to production schedules. The reason why I wanted to stop there is because Kamstrup is known for being very customer facing, not just reliable, but really ingrained in the needs of the customer. And making sure that the experience that the customer has with Kamstrup is as smooth as possible, almost to the point where it's not just for Kamstrup. One thing I do know, and it sort of plays into it, is that a win for Kamstrup in and of itself is not to get the job, it's to get the referral. It's put out there in a way that Kamstrup wants to go so far above and beyond what a reasonable expectation is in terms of deliverability, that it leaves no doubt of who a market leader is when it comes to who customers can rely on. So when it comes to faster response to demand spikes or changes or updates or any customization that needs to be made, what can you say about that related to having the sourcing almost be done completely stateside?
Yeah, so one of the things from a supply chain standpoint is, we're the team that's in the background, but our goal is to make sure every customer is a reference. And so, right, we are kind of the newer player in the field, and so we work extremely hard to support what each customer needs, whether it's a 5,000 metering project or a 100,000 metering project. Mm-hmm. Each customer wants the same thing. Can you give me what you promised that's good quality, and on time, and all the aspects of what everybody strives for? Things only get easier when you have more partners closer to you. You really have no control if the ports go on strike. There's so many different things that have happened over the last 8 years that you still have some risk out there, because everyone's a global economy. No matter how close your suppliers are, everybody has that sub-supplier and that tier 3 of being somewhere, but as you have the different levels of stock at different suppliers, the closest ones that we get helps us support our customers.
Very true, without a doubt. So James, you mentioned that Kamstrup meters are hard to make, but they're also described as a compact design with, get this, no moving parts, which we've covered previously. Tell me how to think about that, about these meters from a design and production standpoint.
Yeah, so our meters are radically simple. There's ultrasonic measurement. Mm-hmm. We have no potting. The integrated radio means there's no wires, and we have a non-wetted transducer. And so the design aspects reflect fewer moving parts, fewer failure points, and optimal power management.
All three important. Yeah,
absolutely. And then the simplicity drives what everyone cares about: the reliability, the longevity, and accuracy. If we can knock those three out, we're doing what we're supposed to.
RLA, that's what utilities care about: reliability, longevity, and accuracy. You nailed it. So with this entire process that you have related to compact design, no moving parts, all of that leads to simplicity, which simplicity drives those three things. And I'll say them again because they are important: reliability, longevity, and accuracy. So that all makes sense to me. And I'm sure that it makes sense to our viewers and our listeners out there. So thank you for defining that for us a little bit further. I want to talk about the philosophy around design. So when we talk about that design philosophy, and all the things that go into it, that puts a lot of pressure on manufacturing quality. No, I mean, how does Kamstrup ensure every meter meets the high standard that it has in place?
So from a production standpoint, we have many checks and balances that make sure when the product goes out the door, it was built correctly. One of the main aspects to Kamstrup is our flow testing lab is ISO 17025 accredited. We 100% test every single product that is sold in a Kamstrup. So it's not sampling. It's 100% of every meter that's gone out the door here has been fully tested to AWWA standards plus. So everything is at or better than the requirements.
I saw that in person, and that is impressive. Every single individual piece was being tested. One of the other things that stands out about Kamstrup production is the level of testing beyond just each isolated meter. So can you go a little deeper on all of the testing that Kamstrup does related to its products in the manufacturing process?
So, as kind of an overview of that, we also have the ISO 9001 certification, which is the quality management system that proves you have your processes in place to repetitively produce products. It's kind of for the whole organization, but in relation to a manufacturing, it is kind of the key of what we do. It's our repetitive processes have been proven to work. Once you start somewhere, everything in the middle is through the flow testing process, and then the custom configuration at the end. So when the customer orders the product, we are making that in real time. We aren't stocking products on the shelf that are finished. When we receive an order from a customer, we finish it and ship it directly to them at the time that we finish it. And so it's a holistic approach that has proven that 0.25%, at 2.5 million meters plus in the U.S., it works.
It's almost like made to order. We live in a made to order society these days. And Kamstrup is certainly answering the bell. Another thing that I wanted to just point out, if I could for a second, relating to what the testing that you do there, what that validates. We're talking on hitting on three of the most important things. So it validates flow accuracy, ultrasonic measurement integrity, and electronic performance. So when we're talking about a water meter, those are the three big hitters. So the testing aspect of it doesn't leave any stone unturned from that. But at its core, everything that we talk about here on the Water Online show comes down to one thing, really, James, and that is, what does all of this mean for utilities? What is its impact on water utilities here in North America and in real world applications? So what are we talking about there?
And so the interesting thing with customers is everyone wants something a little bit differently, but they want the three key things: good quality, on time, and you commit to what you said that you could do, right? So I think everybody wants that. Everybody wants a different production schedule. Everybody has different parameters of what they're ordering, but the basis is, do you say what you say that you can do?
Yep, without a doubt.
And for us, each size customer is also different. So we're in a position where, a smaller utility like Clemson, South Carolina, it's less than 10,000 metering points, can be treated really the same way as our customers in Las Vegas. It's a large account, but we are able to support their delivery plans, their schedules, and the communication within the supply chain to the customer is really handled the same way from the less than 10,000 to several 100,000 metering points. It's really what makes what I enjoy about being in supply chain is being able to find what the customer wants and then figuring out a way to support it.
I mean, what you just talked about is scalability, like being able to give a smaller municipality what they need at the same time being able to turn around and give a city like Las Vegas exactly what they need. So the way that Kamstrup operates enables it to be scalable to whatever the customer needs are. I know that there was another custom project that was done for Beaverton, Oregon. We did a webinar on it here on Water Online. They needed meters shipped according to a specific schedule to minimize warehousing cost. You worked with them to create a custom production schedule and then proved it and then provided it and did everything you said. Kamstrup did everything they said that they needed to do. So that made a huge difference in their deployment and the management of the resources. So being agile, that's what Kamstrup's able to do. Do I have that wrong, or does that aptly describe how Kamstrup can best work with basically any municipality? You're agile.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the case. And going back to what you've mentioned on Beaverton, right? They were WIFIA funded projects, so they had really strict timelines of when they needed products. They didn't want them too early. They didn't want them too late. And so finding the schedule that worked for us and also worked for them was a large project for the supply chain team here to, was delivered over, I think, a 2-year period, monthly shipments of here's how many I need of this for certain revenue, opportunities, and also limit the amount of warehousing space that they needed to store the product. So finding that balance of how much do they want versus they don't want too much. So just finding that perfect balance that worked for them and also worked for us.
It's all about,
for sure.
It's all about what the customer needs, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. Whatever the customer needs, that's what Kamstrup's going to strive to be able to fulfill. And it has a long history of doing that. Looking forward, how do you see localized manufacturing partnerships shaping the future of Kamstrup's operations here in North America?
It's quite clear that we've started with 2 key suppliers. That focus is going to be ongoing, whether we give additional item numbers to these suppliers or have more that come to the U.S. or come to Georgia. Is really what we're working on now. Is what else makes sense from the resilience standpoint to bring in here, and we have several things going on now to support that concept.
So for all of you watching, for all of you listening, I want to give James an opportunity to talk about my favorite question, which is if there's any municipalities out there, as I'm sure there are plenty of them that are interested in learning, what would be the most logical first next step if they wanted to learn more?
So without a doubt, the easiest place to find more out about Kamstrup is kamstrup.com. Yeah. There's plenty of tools, plenty of case stories where you can hear from our customers that have the success stories. And it's a great starting place.
Well, we can always start there. James, I want to thank you for joining us here on the Water Online Show. We learned a lot today, and we certainly appreciate you sharing all of those details with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
And for all of you out there, the Water Online universe, we appreciate you joining us here today. We cannot wait to see you next time.